Hi, I want to start my video down here so you can see how cute my bun looks. Okay, I'm going back up. Hey y'all, it's Linda. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am doing this sort of like tag challenge video that I've seen on several channels lately, most recently on my friend Betty Jean's channel. And I am going to be going over my collection and saying if I could only keep one palette from each brand, which one would I keep? Now, the way I've seen a lot of people do this, they're saying, okay, I'm only going to pick from brands that I have at least 5 palettes from, 10 palettes from, things like that. But here's the problem with that. When I declutter hard. So there's not a lot of brands that I have 5, 10 palettes of. So I am just doing every brand that I have a palette of as long as I have more than one. So for example, I only have one e.l.f. palette. I'm not going to pick that one e.l.f. palette, but right in front of me I have 12 palettes. We're going to get into this right now. So I want to start with Sigma, and this palette is one that kind of immediately jumped out at me when I thought about the brand and which palette I'd like to keep, and that is the Beauty and the Beast palette. First of all, I just love this packaging. I think it is so pretty, but this is such a gorgeous underrated neutrals palette. And yes, you do have some pops of like pinks and purples and that dark blue there, but for the most part, this is a neutrals palette and the quality is so good. Sorry, I should probably just take this out. I love this little like the thingy, you know what I mean? Is it called vellum? I don't know words, but the quality is so good on this, and I feel like this wasn't talked about that much, but it's really beautiful. Every shade performs so well, and I just feel like as far as a neutral palette goes, because for the most part, Sigma's not making rainbow palettes over here, I feel like this one is such good quality, and I don't know why it didn't get talked about more. So yes, from Sigma, it's the Beauty and the Beast. Let's kind of go the opposite end of that spectrum, okay? So from Glamlight, I wanted to pick the Rutro Raggy palette, and this is from the original Scooby-Doo collab. This is the opposite of a neutrals palette, but this color story makes me feral. I love it so freaking much. I love that you've got these purples, but you also have got blues and these kind of swampy greens. And it's just, it all works together, right? It looks so good together. I've created so many cool color stories off of this, and I feel like it's easy to do. Like, I feel like they make it easy to look at this and be like, okay, I'm going to do this with a pop of this in the corner. It's just such a cool story. And on top of that, the quality is really, really good. I think this one might not even be sold out yet. And again, a lot of these palettes I'm going to look at, as I'm looking down at my pile, I'm going to say the word underrated because I feel like they are. But when I looked at my Glamlight collection, this is the one that absolutely stuck out to me that I could not replace. The sparkly green on my inner corner here is this one. I don't think these shades have names. They don't, but it's so good. So yes, from Glamlight, Rutro Raggy. I hate saying that name though. I hate it. Let's go ahead and talk Natasha Denona. So I don't know if this one might surprise a few of you, especially those of you who have been on my channel for like a hot minute. But when I was looking at my palettes, again, I was like, really, I have to get rid of all of these and I can only save one. Which one do I want? Which one would I get the most use out of? And it came down to the bronze palette. So the bronze palette is just these beautiful warm tones, warm golds and browns and bronzes, and it's just stunning. Like, I feel like this is one of the best quality palettes in my whole collection, period. It takes me like 5 minutes to create a look with this, and I've used so many colors. Like, I don't know if you can tell how deep of a dip so many of these colors have, especially silk. Like silk, I'm gonna hit pan any day now. I'm not gonna swatch every palette here, but silk is do you see how incredibly metallic that is? Like, oh my God, I love this color. Look at that. But really, this palette is just such an everyday palette for me. And I know any palette can be an everyday palette for people, right? That fluorescent green and blue palette I just showed could be everyday for a lot of people. But for me, like, I just adore this palette. I love it so freaking much. And again, I feel like this one is underrated. I feel like when people talk about Natasha Denona, it's the glam or my dream. I can't stop talking about this one. So it's the bronze palette. Let's go indie now. So Unearthly Cosmetics. I have only recently started using Unearthly Cosmetics in the last literally year. In that time though, I've gotten a bunch of palettes, and I'll be honest, there's not a single one that I dislike, not even a little bit. But when I was looking and going, which one would I use the most, or would it be like a unique addition to my collection? Every time I kept coming back to Don't Be Jelly. This palette is so good. It is so good. These shifty, shimmery shades are like so shifty, shimmery. I think I said that the last time I talked about this palette. I can't help but refer to it as shifty and shimmery, but the shimmers are beautiful and metallic and opaque, and the mattes are just so creamy. I can't think of another word other than creamy, and I love this color story. I feel like this is an underwater dream for me. This is like a mermaid palette of my dreams. Like, and I do love also how you have some very, very light tones here, but we also go very deep as well. So I do feel like it has everything you need to create a cohesive look. Like, oh my gosh, I can't stop staring at it. I wonder, I always see people do the mirror trick where you can see the shifts in there. Oh my God, I guess you can. Look at that, that middle shade. You can kind of see the shit. Am I an influencer? I'm an influencer. Bye now. Sticking on the indie front, when it comes to Odin's Eye, I will be honest that I only have 3 palettes by them, and they are all the collabs with my friend Angie, who is Angelica Nyqvist here on YouTube. So picking one of these was actually difficult because I genuinely love all 3 of those, but it's got to go to the Hella palette. I love this color story. It is so earthy. Like, I feel like I say grungy a lot. Palettes are super grungy. This one says earth to me. It says like trees and moss and flowers and grass. It says all those beautiful things to me, and it's just like, this is probably my ideal springtime palette. This is spring to me in a palette because you, again, you do have some deeper tones that you can play with, but you've got these bright, like just effervescent colors. I know that's a very dramatic word for an eyeshadow palette, but it is. It's effervescent to me, and I just love it. I love it so much. I need to play with this more. I'm gonna say that also for like 90% of these. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I love this color. This color is double-sided, and it's hard to see, but it's like a pink shifting green color. Let's see if I can do a swatch where you'll be able to see. Yeah, it's so hard to show up, but suffice to say, I adore this palette. So when I'm looking at Odin's Eye, it's Hella. Now, Shroud Cosmetics. I have 3 palettes by Shroud Cosmetics. 2 of them are collabs with my friend Betty Jean, and the other one is not a collab. So which one did I pick out of there? We had to go OG. It's Freakin' Bats is the palette that made me gasp when I first saw this color story. When I saw this teased, I had never heard of that brand. And to be honest, like, I had seen Betty Jean around a few times, but like, I wasn't, you know, like a rabid fan like I am now watching you. So I had just kind of seen this teased, and I didn't know the stories behind it or anything like that. Like, it says on the back, you know, hello friends, and I had no idea even what that was in reference to, but I didn't care because this color story drew me in so hard, probably more than most color stories I've seen in general. Like, I was feral for this one, and I still absolutely love it. I love these mixes of cool tones. Now, I just realized it is sort of similar in a way to the Ruh-Roh Raggy palette. So I do definitely have a type, but I do think the quality in this is just so good. Shroud Cosmetics quality is so, so, so good. I really do hope the best for Shroud, if I'm being honest. Like, I hope they come back bigger and better than ever because their quality is brilliant, and I love that they make palettes that are like this. And this color story is just perfection. So it's freaking bats. Let's go into a brand that's a little bit more mainstream. This might surprise you guys, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna be surprised at that because it surprised the hell out of me. Let's talk Urban Decay. So Urban Decay is a brand that I feel like they had such a heyday, and then they just sort of slowly like got quieter and fizzled down a little bit, but I still really enjoyed their products. And when I was looking at all my Urban Decay palettes, the one that I wound up choosing, I kept going back to it and going, is this really it? Yeah, this is the one, right? This is definitely the one. And it's the Naked Metal Mania palette, which not only do I feel like was underrated, not only do I not hear a lot of people talking about it anymore, but I have seen this for sale in like TJ Maxx at this point. So it must not have done very well, but I love this palette. So yes, you do definitely lean very heavily on neutrals here. But the metallic shimmers are unlike anything I had ever seen Urban Decay do. And to be honest, this silver is unlike anything in my entire collection because it is so ridiculously metallic. Like, I have nothing even close to this. Look at that. I'm the fucking Tin Man over here. And it looks that good on the skin. Like, I genuinely feel like the whole palette is worth it for that color, but the mattes are beautiful as always. With Urban Decay, I really do feel like their mattes are for people who are wanting to build up color. So maybe you want it sheared out, maybe you want it completely opaque, but whatever you want, this palette's gonna do it for you. Please don't overlook this palette, y'all. This is so, so, so good. I get very impassioned about that specific palette because I think so many people thought that this was just like a nothing palette and they just didn't care, and it's so damn good. Oh, this one was probably one of my hardest picks. This was one of my hardest picks, so Nomad. I love Nomad so much, and they keep doing it for me each time. Oh my God, even as I'm sitting here, like I want to change my answer so badly, but I thought about this so hard, so I'm gonna stick with my original answer, but like, oh, it's bothering me. It's bothering me. So sometimes I didn't necessarily pick one of like, that's my favorite palette from the brand, or I didn't pick one that I'm like, that's the easiest or most unique. The way I just picked this was thinking like, what would be a unique addition to my collection? What is good quality? It has to be good quality. And just like, you know, what is not like anything else I have a lot of times. And for that, I went with the New Zealand Stargazing palette, which is one of their newest palettes. I was hard between this and the Ireland palette because I adore that palette and I've been playing with it a lot. But I love these shifty multi-chromes. Again, let's see if we can do a mirror trick like a true influencer person. Yeah, like this color over here, that's the one to watch. It is so incredibly metallic and it changes color depending on which way you're looking at it. But overall, I feel like this color story is a nebula on my face, okay? I just love it so much. I love these bright pops of purples. I love these shimmers. The shimmers are the best in this palette that Nomad has ever done because they are so shifty and change so easily. Whoops, this color, yeah, it's just ridiculous how like it goes from that gold green to a straight purple. Like, how did they do that? And then this color, it looks purple there. And then it's a vibrant teal. Like, this palette is so good. Okay, one more. Look at this. That's like a bronzy pink gold goes to a straight pink. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, it has to be this one. It has to be this one. If I stare too long at the Ireland palette, I'm going to change my mind and then change it again. But right now, I'm saying it's the New Zealand Stargazing. By the way, everything I'm talking about is going to be linked down below, and if I have any discount codes that you can use, they are affiliate codes, so I do get a kickback from them, and I will let you know down below if you want to purchase any of these. Some of these, you know what, let's go into the big one that is very, very discontinued though. I think a lot of you know what I'm going to say for this brand, but the brand is ColourPop, okay? And it was no question which one I would keep, and that is their collaboration with Raw Beauty Kristi, the At Forest Sight palette. This is still one of my favorite palettes in my collection. It is just, again, similar to like the Hella palette, but in a different way. It is so earthy to me. It just like, it grabs tones from earth and bark and moss and flowers and just, it's so gorgeous. It is so gorgeous, and this is what I imagine the Pacific Northwest to look like. It's so beautiful, and I wish they'd bring this palette back. I know they're not going to, but I usually do find, like whenever I talk about this, I usually am able to find a few that I can link to you down below that are on like resale sites, so maybe they've been gently used. You can use those at your own risk. But I feel like this palette is so one that's worth owning. Absolutely worth owning. It's so gorgeous. Now, there's only two really true shimmers. Three really? Okay, there's 3 shimmers in here, but I feel like the mattes are where it's at for this palette. The shimmers are pretty, but they're nowhere near like some of the other qualities, like the Nomad quality, but the mattes are perfection. So if you have a chance ever to grab this palette, I really would suggest grabbing it. It's just so good. Let's get one out of the way that you all knew was coming when it comes to Melt Cosmetics. Now, Melt is the brand that I have the most palettes from any brand. I think I have like 10, 12 palettes by Melt. It's always going to come back to the Gemini. It will always come back to Gemini. And yes, I know I always show up with this beat ass palette that has 2 colors missing and the rest of the colors are like almost panned because I love this so much. It brings me such joy. This is the grungy color story of my dreams. If you are looking for a grungy sort of palette, look no further than the Melt Gemini. There are other ones that try to attempt to replicate it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't get the magic that this one has. So if this is a palette you don't own yet, I know I talk about it ad nauseum, just buy it so I can stop harassing you already. We have 2 palettes left to go, both from kind of indie brands. So this is a brand also that is new to me over the last year or so, and it is Fantasy Cosmetica. They have such innovative and unique color stories that will combine literally like a lime green with a hot pink, with a vibrant blue, with a black, and you're just like, I don't know how they come up with these color stories, but they all work. So I chose a palette full of white shadows. Obviously, these are not white shadows, but I had to go with the Lost Library collection because of, again, how shifty these multi-chromes are. They are all so beautiful and just, they complete any look. Like, this is something that I break out. Maybe I'd say like 50% of the time I do my eyeshadow now. No matter what palette I'm using, I always want to complement it with these shadows because they're so beautiful. Now, these are sold as singles, which is awesome, but there's not a single one that I regret having in my collection. It's so funny, at some lights, I almost kind of love how it looks like I'm holding 6 white shadows. Like there, it's borderline 6 white shadows, but then you catch like these reflex in certain lights, and you can really see all the colors come out to play. It's so good, and these colors are so worth it. They are very, very, very creamy and incredibly metallic. Probably the most metallic shadows I have in my collection. Look at that. Just nothing else even comes close. This was like a slam dunk for me, and I just love it. And finally, palette number 12. This one was also very difficult for me to choose, but in the end, I am very happy with my choice. So Kaleidos, I have so many palettes by Kaleidos. I absolutely adore Kaleidos, but it always comes back to Flower Punk. I adore this color story so much. It is spring and grunge and griminess, but combined with loveliness. And it's just like, this color is a fluorescent green and combined with like a baby blue. I just love that somebody thought of this color story. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever look at a palette and you're like, how did somebody even think of that? But damn, I'm glad that they did. That's the way I feel about this one. And the quality is brilliant. The shimmers perform perfectly. The mattes are creamy and opaque. It's just perfect. It is a perfect palette. And again, I think this one is discontinued. I will see if I can try to find, resale again for something like that, anything that's discontinued. But I really love this one. This one brings joy to my heart. So that's it. Those are all 12 palettes of like, if I could only keep one from each brand, what would I keep? But I need you to tell me in the comments down below. Especially if you have any of these brands, what would be your one thing that you would keep? Like if you're a big Nomad fan, tell me which Nomad palette you would keep out of your collection. Same thing with Kaleidos or Urban Decay or Natasha Denona. Like, I'm very curious because a lot of these I definitely waffled back and forth on the decision. And I'm questioning it even now, like as I'm looking again at Nomad, at the New Zealand Stargazing. I love it so much, but I love this new Ireland palette. But I'm gonna stick with my decision because I don't feel like refilming this video. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would love if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Become a part of the fam. You all can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Those are all Glitter Fallout. And as always, and forever, first of all, I'm sending you a huge hug. If you're somebody who needs a hug right now, like, please know I'm sending you the most massive hug. I appreciate you all so much. You are super freaking rock stars, and I love you so much with my whole heart. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.